שלום לכל מאזיני שוונג, אנחנו כאן עם ברט הוק, תכף נסביר מי הוא, הראיון יהיה היום באנגלית. Guy, let's get this show on the road. Okay, Brett, so we're here in the שוונג podcast. Let me introduce you first. Twice Olympian in the 50-meter freestyle sprint swimmer. We'll talk a little bit later about sprinting and maybe the persona of sprinters. And long-time coach, Auburn University, 10 years as head coach, 2 years as an assistant prior to that. So your perspective, question number one, the greatest freestyle sprinter in our lifetime.
Good question, good question. Hot debate, I guess.
For me, my answer is simple.
Who is it?
Popov.
Popov, yes. Well, listen, Popov's impact on world sprinting is, I think, unmatched. Popov's impact, you know, especially for me as an Australian who grew up in Sydney. And Popov moved to Australia just after Barcelona and in 92. And so he was there in 93. And we were awarded the Olympics in Sydney in 2000. So the idea was to group the best talented athletes, sprinters together and come down for a camp with Popov. So my first meeting, my first interaction was meeting Popov in 1993 as a 17-year-old kid, you know, and wow, what an impact he had on me, you know. So look, the way he swam, the way he carried himself, the way he performed, was just at a completely different level than we'd ever seen before. And he really put sprinting on the map. You were proud to be a sprinter now because of Alex Popov, you know, especially in Australia. So as my identity grew in swimming and in sprinting, I have to trace it back to Popov's roots and his impact that he had on me.
And he had 4 golds, 2 in the 50 consecutive Olympics and 2 in the 100 consecutive Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greatest female sprinter in our lifetime.
Well, listen, we did say Alex Popov, but I'm going to give Gary Hall Jr. a mention here. Okay? Gary Hall Jr. to me, as well as what you know, Popov's impact. Gary Hall Jr.'s flair is just
the boxing pants,
something that is unmatched as well. You know, Popov was the man that did everything perfectly. He turned up to practice and. From point A to point B, everything was on point. Gary was the guy that really,
Maverick.
yeah, he didn't really play by the rules, you know. So, look, the impact that those two guys had on me and on world sprinting, I think, is something that will go down in history forever. So, yeah, they had a huge impact. Female sprinting, that's
easy.
Who was it for you?
Sarah
Sostra. Sarah
the longevity there, man, is just wow.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, look, there's a lot of really good women that had impact as well. You know, Inge de Bruin for me is like one that comes to mind of somebody that was just so dominant.
All the Dutch crew.
Yeah, the Dutch crew. I mean, yeah, the Dutch swimmers. Peter van den Hoogenband too, man. We can't forget him. But look, a lot of really good American female sprinting has been good for many years too. So it's like and then the Australian women now in what they've got and what they're doing. So, but yeah, I think if you're looking at greatest of all time, right now it has to be Sarah. It has to be Sarah Sostrom. Yeah.
Now, sprinter's mindset.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference from the middle distance and the long distance swimmer? How the sprinters think, what they're willing and not willing to do, how they're willing and not willing to train. Is there a difference?
It's not so much how they're willing and not willing to train. I think sprinters have a deep understanding of who they are. And I don't think that we as a swimming community have a deep understanding of sprinting. There's a misconnection here, you know. We're not getting the sprinters. We think, because look, swimming itself is based on how hard you work, how often you work, how much mileage, how much yardage, how many kilometers you do. That's swimming. That is how we've built swimming. Sprinters are not built that way. Sprinters are built on, you know, how fast can I swim? How well can I do it? You know, and they have a different way of carrying themselves for sure. You know, they're the artists of swimming. You know, they're artistic.
The savants.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so they're just cut differently. And I don't think we've ever truly, fully understood them as a Community. So I think now we're starting to get to a point where we identify sprinters. We know who they are. We know what they look like. We know how they act. We're starting to understand how to train them. It's just different. Yeah. So
do you think the middle distances and the long distances can benefit from sprint mentality? Let me call it that way, because I see different mentalities there.
Well, look at what's happening in world swimming right now. You know, we're getting faster, and that's from the fastest event to, you know, the 10K. We're getting faster. So, and everything in between. So the idea of, can we learn from sprint? Yes. So what we've learned from sprint is that race quality swimming in practice matters greatly. And we're seeing more and more of that. It's not just about how hard you work anymore. Sprinters were always concerned with recovery. You know, I have to recover in order to be able to do that again. Well, that's now filtering down into middle distance and distance swimming, you know. Gone are the days where you were just like Grant Hackett, who I grew up with, one of the greatest distance swimmers of all time. Grant just outworked everybody every single day and very rarely did any form of recovery. That just wasn't part of the equation. Distance swimmers are recovering now. They're doing smarter training. They're doing race pace quality, and they're getting faster. So, yeah, sprinting's having an impact on everything.
We got to take a pause for 1 minute here and talk about where we are. We're in Israel. You're in Israel. This is the end of March 2024. Why are you here?
Oh, why am I here? Well, look, I guess my history with Israel and swimming goes back to 1995 when I met Yoav Brock. Yoav Brock is a man that has had an enormous impact on my life. And I met him in Paris in 1995. I was part of an Australian team. He was there swimming for Israel, competing at a championship in Paris. We met. He had a conversation with me, and from that moment on, he wouldn't let go. He's like, Brett, I've got to get you to America. I've got to get you to Auburn University. I've got to get you to come and swim for us. So he just wouldn't let go and wouldn't let go. And then 2 years later, I turn up at Auburn University because of Yoav, you know. And that man, again, another man that's changed my life completely. So America had an incredible impact on me, but that was because of Yoav. So I've had this relationship with this man now for 30 years. He's been a friend of mine, deep friend of mine. Have a massive amount of respect for him. And, you know, we're always communicating on what's happening in Israeli swimming or world swimming or Auburn swimming specifically. But so there's that. And then there's, I met another man a couple of years ago, Jonathan Kopolov. And he started to say, Brett, I want you to come to Israel and I want you to, you know, come and work with sprinting. You know, I want to change the culture a little bit. I want to change the mentality. So he's the one that had planted the seed a few years ago. And then, you know, about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was, we had another conversation. He said, Brett, I want you to come. And I said, I'll do it. You know, I just said, I'll do it. And, you know, obviously with the situation that's been happening politically and, you know, in the country in the past 4 or 5 months, it's been, you know, it's been in the news worldwide, right? And so as I started to tell people that I'm planning on going to Israel, people started to tell me not to do it, you know.
To wear a flak jacket.
Yeah, just not even get on the plane. They told me not to do it. It's too risky. And
how do you feel once you're here?
Unbelievable. I felt incredible warmth and openness and friendliness. Safety from the moment I got here. I feel more unsafe in LA than I do in Israel right now. So, yeah, completely safe, and everybody's been incredible to work with, yeah.
You know, I know Jonathan since he was maybe 12 years old. He swam on my brother's team.
Yeah.
My brother was doing the backstroke when Jonathan was there. Big mistake. Jonathan ended up being a European champion in the 50 backstroke, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's talent here. There's definitely talent in this country, that's for sure.
Okay, so NCAAs.
Yeah.
Men ended last night.
Yeah.
And something is bugging me. 2 things are bugging me about the NCAAs. First thing, in the 100 yards, backstroke, freestyle, and butterfly are 70% the same swim. Underwater, fly kicking.
Yep, that's
it's
it.
almost the same.
Yep.
And I'm kind of losing my what are the strokes for? You know, swimming has so many medals and so many strokes and so many distances, but if they're all doing 70% the same thing, what's the point? And when I watched videos, not necessarily from the NCs, but from maybe World Short Course that was in Australia last year, they keep cutting the short videos. They keep cutting the underwaters, and I was thinking maybe we should scale it down: 15-meter underwater for the dive, but 10 meters for the after the wall, because otherwise we're losing, the strokes are losing their point.
Right.
What do you think?
Look, I 100% agree with you. Honestly, I really do.
That's a shock.
I started to get a little frustrated that they were saying, Gretchen Walsh swam the 100 fly and the 50 free and the 100 free. She swam underwater kick multiple times, like you said, and then she came up, did a few strokes, and that was it. So it's not like I think she's the greatest freestyler on earth anymore. Like she's not better than Sarah Sostrom. She's not better at her at fly or free. We know that, and to say that she's the greatest in history, it's kind of, it takes away, and I think that's upsetting the athletes who are legitimate 100 butterflies and freestylers, and I think Sarah is probably a little pissed off right now. So
I think it's upsetting the audience, because if you see it all the same, they dive in. And they do 60 meters underwater out of the 100 yards, which is 90 meters. Yeah. So 2/3 underwater, exactly the same. Yeah. It's all the same. It's over and over and over, all the same. And in the relays, almost again 60% is underwater. Yeah. So you're kind of losing touch as an audience. Yeah. Now, my thought would be like to keep the dive at 15 meters, and after the turn 10 meters, and perhaps maybe introduce 50 meters just underwater for an event, and let the kickers have their day.
Well, here's what's not going to happen. You're not going to change the way America thinks about yard swimming. They love it. They love their yard swimming. It's not going anywhere. They're not changing the schedule. They're not changing the events. They're not moving to short course meters. It's not going to happen. And so listen, I think you just have to learn to accept that America's going to do what they do. When it comes to long course swimming in a few months from now, they have to have a mind shift, right? Like you can't expect to do the same thing and get the same result, because you're going to have to now become a swimmer. You can't stay an underwater kicker. So this is where the shift for the rest of the world is like let them have their fun, let them do what they need to do, but stay focused on what really matters, and that's the Olympic Games, and that's kind of where my mind is.
I want to talk to you about that, about the yard swimming. It feels to me like they're missing out big time, but they're missing out on things maybe that the NCAA cares less about. On revenue, promotion. Like if it was short court meters, it would be the official/unofficial world championship. There would be world records over there that would be recognized globally. Now, only in the United States and almost only in the NCAAs do people recognize the time. The record, the NC records that are falling, but think if it was short course meters, how much more potentially economically it would be much better. Like sponsors, broadcast rights, everything would be bigger, and probably the NCAAs would benefit as far as quality of swimmers coming in. It would be, like I say, like an unofficial world short course champs every year.
Well, that may be one point that I disagree with. I don't think they're struggling for quality of athletes. A lot of those athletes will end up becoming Olympic champions, like Leon Marchand. Dominated the event in the past few days. So look, this man's going to go on and win multiple Olympic gold medals. And like the depth, if you look at the depth, there's swimmers from all around the world. And the depth was incredible. And, there's Israeli swimmers over there.
Of course.
And he's doing really well. So it's like, I don't think they'll ever struggle to attract the best athletes because of what they offer. I will agree in terms of, I don't know where the NCAA is. I don't know where their head is sometimes. I don't know what they're after. But swimming is never, in my mind, really going to be a revenue sport for them. So it's going to cost more than they're ever going to be able to bring in and distribute throughout, whoever's competing.
Let's talk about that. Professionalism in swimming. Rare, few and far between. The NCAAs, which is perhaps the hotbed of swimming in the world, a lot of athletes train there. The people that get paid are only the coaches. Nobody else gets paid. How do you
No, that's not true anymore either.
No, the NIL,
Yeah.
you get paid, but not from the college. You get paid from sponsors.
Right, yeah.
But a tennis player who has 4 Grand Slams a year doesn't get paid only from the sponsors.
Right.
And same as a cyclist who has 5 cycling monuments and then the 3 Grand Tours. And I think most sports that do not have the Olympics as by far their major event are more commercially successful. They have several annual peaks. Again, like tennis, like cycling, like other sports. Swimming is, at least in the United States, and I think in many other places, is tied to the Olympics. Is there a future for professional swimming when you only have a huge event once every 4 years?
Let me say something controversial that you may not have thought that I might say here. I'm going to put the professionalism on the coaches, right? We just had a World Championships in Doha. A world title was put on. The event was set up. Everything was great. And the problem was it wasn't supported by the coaches. So the athletes didn't go. So you have a world title where they're saying you can become a world champion. And the coaches around the world are saying, you know what, it doesn't fit into my Olympic schedule. In February, when the Olympics is in July, August, it's like, what, you can't peak in February, or you can't at least go and compete in February because it's going to mess with something 6 months later. The coaches don't have a professional mindset. I believe it starts with them, because if they don't support it, it doesn't matter what happens. If we put on events, if it's not supported by the coaches, which ultimately isn't going to let us get the best athletes there, because the coaches are still making the decisions for the athletes. They're not saying to their coach, I want to go and be there. I don't care what you say. The coach is saying, no, that doesn't fit in with my schedule, my program. And so we're not supporting things like this. So I've got a real issue with that right now. That's where I'm at with it.
Do you think there is a future for a professional swimming league? Or, in my eyes, the events I would like to see in swimming are a waiver away from just the pool. I would like to see people swimming in the Sydney Harbor first to touch the bridge, maybe, even if it's 50 meters or 100 or 400, doesn't matter. But an event which is steeped in the local landscape and like we have the Tour de France, they're circling in the Champs-Élysées every year, and everybody knows that picture. And in swimming, it's always the same. It's like running on a track. You never experience the environment. It's always the same pool, the same lanes, the same walls, and like there's no appeal to like a stadium audience that maybe can be achieved in certain places. So do you think there's a chance for swimming to make and adapt changes that will make I'm talking, this is mostly freestyle because strokes still need their lanes probably, but to make events that can have an appeal, like, I don't know, harbor swim events with jumping off starting blocks and everything, but still, racing together.
I like where your head's at. I like the idea of like coming up with creative events for sure. I like ice swimming is one of these things that's kind of taken off recently. I'm seeing a lot of people do that. I wouldn't want to jump in the ice, but yeah, I think the creative events, there's no shortage of creativity, but there's shortage of support. That's again, like, in order to have an event like that, you got to get athletes to it, and then in order to get athletes to it, you got to have coaches support. Swimming is still one of these sports where generally the coach is the overlord, right? The overseer, and it's still young. Like, there's still 18 to 22-year-olds who are competing at the highest level. We don't have a massive array of older athletes yet in swimming. We're slowly creeping up. The Sarah Sostroms of the world moving into their 30s and stuff like that. There are one-offs, but there's not hundreds of them. The majority of swimmers are young kids, and they're being controlled in a way by their coach. And so if we're going to put on these fun events and we're going to do different things, it has to start there. We have to say, look, we've got to do something different if we want to be recognized. We've got to bring entertainment into swimming. I think we don't do a good job of even just telling stories in the lead up because the coaches close off their programs. I can't even tell you how many times I've, in the past 3 or 4 months, reached out to a coach or an athlete and they've said, we're not talking until after Paris. right?
Why is that?
Why is that? It annoys me so much. Why is that? Yes.
They're afraid to jinx themselves,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
know, to
yeah.
speak before time.
Yeah, yeah. It's always that attitude of, you know, let your actions do the talking. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And again, it's that fear, it's that control from the coaches that tell the athletes don't talk. And so I'm getting so much of that from the top coaches in the world. They're not letting me have access to their athletes, you know. So it's really frustrating to me as well.
So how do you grow sport when the athletes aren't talking before the big event?
Yeah.
No trash talk, no nothing. no even you know, swagger, nothing at all. It's just everybody's
nothing.
You know.
Yep, nothing. You can't grow a sport if you don't have access to the athletes. It frustrates me no end. And believe me, I try. I work so hard. People text me all the time, Brett, why don't you talk to this person? Why won't you speak to that person? Because they won't talk to me, because they've told me that they're not talking. So it's not me. It's not a me problem. I'm out there trying to find these people to speak. But yeah, it goes back to, I'm so frustrated with coaches right now of just closing off their programs, because I am, like you, wanting the sport to grow. I'm trying to grow the sport, and I'm getting a lot of pushback from it.
That's interesting. Swimming countries. You know, I have a dream that Israel will be far more a swimming country than it already is.
Yeah.
We have pools, you know, mostly summer pools, but all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Some get closed for the winter as well. We have the sea. You saw the sea.
Yep.
Sea is good. We swim in the sea. I swim in the sea once or twice a week at least.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you think now are the biggest? I'm not talking about the talent and the top of the pyramid, but I'm talking about the bottom. The biggest swimming countries per capita. I mean, the U.S. is the biggest, probably, but Australia. I taught swimming in Australia.
Yeah.
I was there for a few months, and I taught in Sydney, in Bondi. There was a little pool. I taught 1-year-old kids because the idea was that as soon as they walk, they can fall into the pool and they need to reach the wall.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
And who are the biggest, you know, swimming countries for you that's, you know, have swimming in their bones?
That's a good question. Look, I think we've been surprised recently in the past couple of years of the way that China's coming on. You know, China is a force right now. And the more that I learn about China and the more people I talk to, the more I realize that they are systematically trying to become a powerhouse, if they're not already. They're wanting to be the world leader in swimming, and they're putting a lot of time and energy into you know, getting their athletes to swim and compete and train and prepare to be the best. So, and they've just got unlimited numbers, as you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think China's going to be one of those real forces, and I think you're going to see that in Paris. I mean, we saw it last year at the World Championships, where it was like, whoa, they've got really good really quickly, but they're putting time and energy into it. Now, you know, people have been critical of China in the past to say they're, you know, whatever, they're on a different system and stuff. I've seen more openness. I've seen more willingness. I've seen more impact from the outside in China. They're bringing in coaches. They're bringing in ideas. So I don't see it as an issue that they're cheating. I see it as an issue that they're investing. You know, so that's the thing I see there. I don't know. Look, I guess who else is out there?
I think England has been doing quite a job with a lot of people.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. England's been doing a great job. There's definitely, you know, I think what happened in England is they had some success in some relays. You know, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I think that kind of there's always a kickstart in the country when you see a team like that, or you see an individual, or even Adam Peaty, you know, he becomes a superstar, megastar, then kids want to be like him, you know, and that's the impact that I think in Adam Peaty and some of these relays have had. They want to be on that relay. They want to be the next guy. And so, and then those stars like Adam Peaty are doing a really good job within their own country of promoting swimming. You know, Adam's doing an incredible job.
I saw a race between him and a child. Did you see that?
Yeah.
On the Twitter?
Yep.
He was swimming against a kid.
Yeah.
He was diving in like 5 or 6 seconds after.
Yeah.
And he was racing them till the end of the pool. That was just, I wrote to a lot of my family is in the swimming. Yeah. That is the best swimming content I've seen in months.
Yeah, and he's doing that. And so it's having an impact. And so you're seeing this growth of people within the country wanting to be the next Adam Peaty or on the next relay. and they're really strong right now. They got a lot of talent. Their 4x2 is just their men's 4x2 is just as stacked, I think, as Australia's women's 4x1. I mean, it's just like it's almost so dominant that it's untouchable, I think. Yeah.
Australia and sports. What is going on over there? It's like if you don't do sports in Australia, you just have to emigrate out, or what?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Like sports is just ingrained. They put a lot of resources into sport in Australia, you know, and it's from different places too. It's, you know, from the government, from federal government, state government. It's from sponsors. It's from clubs. I mean, you are very hard pressed to not find some level of support in Australia. If you have the willingness and the talent, you can get support to get to the next level even, you know. So what they don't have a great system of is kind of like America, where you can study and swim at the same time. There are pockets of that now, and it is growing. It's certainly nothing like America, but it was always just generally like you finished high school, and then if you wanted to do sports, there was an avenue to do it, and you could get there. But you couldn't really study at the same time there. So if you wanted to be an athlete, you could do it, you know, but you had to kind of stay there. And if you even thought about leaving and going to America, they would cut you off. So it's very, the culture is very sporting. Like they play everything. And sport is,
they make up their own sports. Like Aussie rules.
Yeah. But they become heroes too. Like they become icons, you know. So like an Ian Thorpe is an icon in swimming because he was just the man. So the impact that he had on swimming in Australia and things like that. So yeah, it's big time, really big time.
Now let's talk about, you know, you're a sprint coach, and maybe some of our listeners would like a tip how to get faster. You know, one tip that I got from Anthony Irvin, which is about not getting faster, but just doing it. He said, 90% of the work is showing up. Yeah. Show up at the pool, and you'll be swimming, and you'll be training, and you'll be doing it. That was a tip for me. So I try to show up. But let's talk about sprinting. You're a renowned sprint coach. And I believe in swimming fast. You know, I saw you talked maybe about Gennady Turetsky, who told the Australians, you can't expect to swim slow all year and fast in the competition. You have to swim fast all year if you want to swim fast. Yeah. What would be your number one tip for people who want to swim faster?
Yeah, well, I guess that is the number one tip. If you want to swim fast, you have to train fast. That's the thing, is you can't swim fast without training fast. And so I think what we're seeing now around the world, the reason why we are getting faster is because people are doing more race-paced training. They're doing more training where they're improving their top speed. So like, you know, the top speed is how fast can you go before you slow down. And generally in swimming, track and field type thing, it's about 7-8 seconds, you know. So they're improving their top speed. They're improving their overall speeds. I think swimming at slow speed with really good technique is really important. I'm a big believer that in order to swim fast, you have to learn how to swim slow well. And so I'm a huge believer in technique. So when you apply technique and then you apply the speed to the training and the different types of speed, I'm not just talking about top speed, I'm talking about the front of your race where you go out with easy speed. I'm talking about the back of your race.
Is it true that freestyle has different strokes for different speeds? Like a certain person, if he swims a 25 meters or he swims a 200 or he swims an open water race, it could be 3 different strokes.
Yeah, 100%. You know, generally in sprinting, there's a pretty good balance between the power that you generate up front and the power that you're generating from your legs. You need to have a really strong kick and a really strong pull, and those two things need to work together. As you go up in distance, you can start to mix those up a little bit. Some people have really strong 6-beat kick and kind of just lay on the front of their stroke a little bit. Others are kind of tempo oriented, like Greg Poltroneri, like, you know, tempo up front. So like, and he'll be light on his legs. So, you know, everyone has a little bit of a different style there, but generally generally in sprinting, you have to have this connection between power at the back and power at the front, and they have to work together. But you can't hold that for extended periods. So that's why people have different techniques. So in sprinting, you'll see a certain powerful, over-the-top, maybe straight-arm technique, whereas in middle distance swimming, you might see, you know, a light 6-beat kick with a longer stroke out front with a much more high elbow type catch. So, yeah, certainly different strokes for different events.
You've been in Israel how many days? 5?
Yeah, 5 days.
And what do you think about Israeli swimming? I mean, you see some of it. You spoke to Anastasia Gobenko. You see some of it at the NCAAs. And now you've been here. Your thoughts, if any?
Well, first of all, I was very surprised to have the support that I had when I did a coach's clinic. Was it yesterday? I'm still dealing with the jet lag.
Day before, I think. Friday, probably.
Right, yeah, Friday. So, look, I had 50 coaches turn up, you know, and this was put on by Jonathan and the club that he works for, and yet 50 coaches from around Israel turned up to listen to me speak for, 6 hours. So I found that to be incredible. I mean, it was beautiful. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was expecting 3 or 4, maybe, the coaching group from that one particular club, but no, everybody came. So I think there's a thirst for the knowledge. I think they want to get better. I don't think they fully understand or have figured out how to collectively work together, maybe. Yet, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there's a...
Not yet.
It doesn't seem like there's a collective movement to say we're all believing the same thing. And that's what I'm trying to get them to do is like, look, I was part of I told them this, I was part of a Brazilian team in 2008 where they had never won a gold medal in their country's history in swimming. Never won a gold medal in Brazil's country's history in swimming until 2008.
You coached Cesar.
And I took Cesar Cielo and won the gold medal. But in the lead up to that, there was still this belief amongst the staff and the team that it couldn't be done because it had never been done. Cesar and I had already had an agreement that we were going there to win. We knew that. We believed that. But it was very difficult to get anybody else to believe that. Now, since that day, I've felt a sense that we can do this in Brazil. We can do this. It's possible now. And I think that's kind of where I'm feeling Israel is right now in terms of they haven't had an Olympic medalist. They've come close. But I feel like because they've made finals at Olympic Games, world champion, well, they've got a world championship medalist. But in terms of the Olympic Games, let's just stay there. We haven't been on the podium yet, but we've had finalists. And I think there's an acceptance that we can do that. We can get to the final, and that's where we should aim because we've been there before. But there's not a collective acceptance to say we can get on the podium at the Olympic Games. I don't think there's a belief that that can happen yet. And so it's going to take somebody to do it to change that belief, I believe.
Have you seen swimmers, Israeli swimmers specifically? Are you working with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan's group, Meron.
Meron Herut?
Yes. I mean...
he's been doing butterfly sprints now. I saw pretty well in Paris. He broke the record, did 22 low.
Yeah. Look, what a talent, and look, he's been in situations now. He's been racing the best guys in the world, and that's what it takes sometimes to like put yourself in a room with the best guys to know that you belong first of all, and then figure out that you can beat them. And I think that's where he's getting to. He's figuring out like he knows he belongs now, which is great. If you can get an Israeli to believe that they belong amongst the fastest swimmers in the world, well, I mean, what a powerful way to think. So he's passed that first hurdle. Now we've got to get him to the next hurdle to believe that when he's in that room, he owns that room. Everybody else is there to compete and support him, but he's there to win, And if we can click that mentality in, wow, then we're going to have something special. And I think what we're seeing is he's got the right coach. He's got some experience now. Now we've just got to figure out how we can get that to happen. So that's kind of why I'm here to help maybe just put the finishing touches on it or give some insight or maybe just give him some belief that he's capable of doing that,
Yeah, we saw the Ukrainian do it in the World Championship, right?
Right.
That was crazy. And he was breathing.
Yeah.
Like before the wall. You remember that?
Yeah.
I was looking at that and saying...
He doesn't have the best start. He was breathing.
The best start. He has the worst start.
He has the worst. Yeah.
Lucky it's Cameron who doesn't have the best start either.
But listen, when you're the worst at something, you better be the best at something. And what he has is this thunderous kick. When he gets that kick going, there's nothing like it in the pool. It's phenomenal. So he has this ability to do something that nobody else does, or better than everybody else, let's say that. So you've got to have that. You've got to have a balance between the best swimmer is not necessarily the best at everything. They just have something that maybe they're better at than everybody else. Right now, Gretchen Walsh, for instance, has the best underwater kick. But that doesn't mean she's the best swimmer. So she's going to have to figure out, okay, how can I now become better at swimming because my underwater kick is so good? So that's what I find, you know. But Meron is in that position where he is really good at a lot of things. Now he's got to just fine tune it so that he's the best at something. And when he's up on the line, he can apply it and get his hand on the wall first.
Paris Olympics. You said one expectation for you is the Chinese. I couldn't agree more. Like they got a deep team.
Yeah.
And a strong team. And I see the Japanese have had their trials not as good as we're used to seeing them. Mm. And that could even, embolden the Chinese even more. But they're coming to clear house in many of the events. The 100 breast, the 100 free, women as well.
Yeah.
What other things do you expect, like the Australian team, the U.S. team, other than the usual? But like, let's talk about one rivalry, which is always exciting for me. Kaylee McEwen and Bob swimmer, what's her name? Regan Smith.
Regan, yeah. Yeah, look, there's a back and forth, isn't there? Just Regan will post a time, Kayla will post a time. I think ultimately it comes down to they're going to face each other, and they have. And Kaylee's got the best of that situation in the past. And so Regan's going to have to figure out how she can overcome that. And that's tough. When somebody's got the best of you a few times, especially when it's close, like Kaylee's not getting slower. She's getting faster too. So, my belief is that Kaylee is the better competitor. I can't judge them based on how they train. I've heard they both train very well. But in terms of, when you put somebody next to somebody else, Kaylee's going to come up on top 9 times out of 10. It doesn't mean that Regan won't be able to. So it'll be interesting. But I do believe Kaylee will get the better of it. Yeah.
What do you think of the Adam Peaty situation?
Who was I talking to the other day? Brendan Hansen. Brendan Hansen, went to 3 Olympics himself, and it was the same situation. He was very successful at the first 2, and then the third one, he was there to compete, but he wasn't the favorite anymore, and he came away, and I think he made the finals, maybe even got a medal in the relays, and that's kind of where I see Adam right now. He's got competitors, but he's done so much for the sport that we don't need him to win to be, the greatest of all time. He's that guy, like he took breaststroke to another level, and people then followed because they realized it could be done. Again, it's that same situation when you see somebody do it, it can happen, and then all of a sudden you see, 5, 6 people, get to the point where they're better than him now. So he's definitely got competition now. He's not the dominant force anymore, but what I love about Adam, he's come back, he's put himself in position, and then hopefully he can be proud of the achievements that he gets instead of feeling like he's, lost something because he didn't win the event. But so I don't think he'll win. I really don't. I think that's beyond him. But
we all romanticize to see him at least on the podium, right?
Yeah, maybe the podium for sure. I just don't think he'll win, but I think he could be on the podium. Yeah, for sure.
100 freestyle, perhaps the most intriguing event in this year in the men's.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen over there. You have any idea?
I have an idea that there's about 6 guys that could legitimately win it, I really do. And, when I talk about one guy, I say, that guy could win. And then I think about the next guy, and that guy could win too, so it's
unbelievable.
It's just very stacked. And then we don't know where Caleb Dressel's going to be in terms of, is he going to be back in the 100 free? His 100 fly, I think Caleb's going to be the man again, I think. 100 free, it'll be interesting to see how close he can get to his best. And then if that's competitive enough to be in the conversation to win the race, I don't know. But there's guys, Jack Alexi, I think. Jack Alexi is an incredible long course 100 freestyle. He was just at the NCAAs. I believe he got second or third last night in the 100, but that's short course yards. But
Josh Leando went 40-30, 40-20,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, another great underwater kicker who hasn't figured it out completely long course yet, you know. But again, he'll have to do that. But yeah, incredible results. But yeah, you've got, you know, Popovich. I'm a huge fan of Popovich, and you know, I interviewed him very young at the age of 16 and 17 when he broke the world record. I got to talk to him, and
I saw that.
And I was so big on this kid, you know, and he has had some struggles in the past couple of years where he hasn't put it together again like that. So it'd be interesting to see if he can. And look, if he posts the best time, we're not even talking about beating everybody, but if he posts the best time, it puts him on the top of the podium, you know? So it's like, that's all he's really got to do is just get to where his best time is again. And, you know, he did that at 17. I would think he could do it at 20.
You know, we're talking about swimmers like Dressel, maybe a little bit like Popovich, definitely Petey. I don't know what Milak is doing. I don't know if he's going to even be swimming in the Olympics. But how is it as a coach when a guy has had this kind of dip in his abilities or in his motivation or whatever it may be, probably comes together, abilities and motivation, how do you bring them back up?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, you know, especially when you've had some disappointment, because disappointment creates baggage, you know, and it's a heavy baggage, you know. Success, well, I guess success can do the same thing too. Maybe the world record at 17 created a heavy bag for him, where now he's carrying this bag around and he doesn't know how to empty it, you know. So, yeah, it's different with different people, you know. If you have back-to-back losses, it can destroy some people. If you have back-to-back losses, it can make them stronger. You know, he's had some back-to-back wins for a little bit, and maybe that the pressure and his persona in Romania amongst the people, maybe it changed so much that it added too much pressure for him. So I don't know the specifics, but man, it is difficult. You know, it's tough. But look, it's the Olympic Games, and we all have to face our own challenges. So he's got to overcome it no matter what. He's got to figure it out.
Swimming, swim training, quality swim training, and fun.
Yeah.
Does that even go together? Like, isn't the fun sucked out of it when you're at a high level? Or should we, and are we able to find, do they need to make a point of finding the fun once or twice a week for the swimmers? I'm talking not just ages 11 or 9 to 18, but after that as well.
Once or twice a week. Listen, if my athletes are walking off the deck and they're not smiling, then I haven't done my job, you know. I want them walking off the deck happy. I want them walk off the deck confident and satisfied, you know. If they're walking off miserable and broken down and beat up, they're not going to want to rush back in the door, you know. I want to stack workouts on top of each other that they feel great about, not workouts that they feel terrible about or not proud of or didn't give them much confidence. Look, we've got to get away from this hard work mentality of the harder you work, the tougher you are, the better the stronger an athlete you are. That's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. What we have to get to is, look, a happy swimmer, a confident swimmer is a fast swimmer. That's what it is. And that's why I've had success with sprint. You know, two of my athletes are the only two swimmers in history to ever go under 21 seconds. I've had another athlete, Bruno Fratis, who's been under 22 seconds 100 times. Like, you don't think that was fun, you know, to do it 100 times? The next closest to him, I think, is like 50 or 60 times, you know, under 22 seconds. Bruno's been under 22 100 times.
That's unbelievable.
Like, it's fun, you know, like, it should be fun. And so, yeah, people are missing the boat if they're not making their practices enjoyable and fun, but challenging. That's okay. Challenging is fun. We just had it. I just came from a practice with the guys. You know, we had three athletes this morning, and they worked incredible. They had an incredible practice. Actually, one of them had the best practice they've had in their careers, fastest practice times they've ever swum. You don't think they enjoyed that? But they swam fast, and they're proud of their performance this morning. So they walk away, they're confident, they're happy, and they want to come back and do it again.
Would you say that is one of the focal points that needs changing in the swimming?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fun in practice.
Yeah, for sure. Practice isn't just for practice. You're practicing for competition. You're practicing for racing. You're preparing to race. You're practicing to practice, and this is where we get it wrong, Competition is fun, right? When you're at a competition, that's where you're having the most fun. So if you're preparing for that, then part of what you do should be fun and how you prepare for that. It should feel like practice should feel like competition. The more it feels like competition, in fact, the better you'll be at competition. So yeah, I want my practices to be fun and challenging. Competition is challenging. When you stand up next to somebody, it's man on man, woman on woman. You gotta beat the person next to you. That's okay. That we can deal with that because we deal with it in practice. Competition in practice should be part of what we do as well.
That's great. That's a great insight. I think that many people are missing.
Yeah.
Before we part,
yeah,
I'm a master swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Partial master swimmer, but there are all ages of swimmers. Give us a set, a fun, challenging set that we should do in our next practice.
Oh, wow. There's all levels of swimmers, you're right. But look, I enjoy going fast. And do you ever use equipment when you swim?
Of course.
What kind of equipment do you use?
Paddles and the buoy and the fins when we need to.
Use the fins, okay, and the paddles, okay, good. So a set.
Sometimes it's the only thing that keeps us afloat at the end of practice.
I tell people this all the time. Look, a set that I love to do is a front end of my race with some easy swimming in between, and then a back end of my race. And you can either do it without equipment or with equipment. And now a front end of your race could be you're preparing for 100 or a 200.
Front end, let me explain, is the first half.
Yeah, first half, okay? So you take part of the first half of the race. So if let's say you're preparing for a 400 and you want the first 100 to be nice and smooth and easy, but you want to get on a certain pace, then I would do 100 where you say, okay, I'm going to do the first 100 of the 400, and then I'm going to swim some easy in between, and then I want to finish my 400 in this time.
Race pace,
right? So then I would do a back end 100, right? And this can apply to a 200. You could do the first 50, and then you could do the last 50. It could apply to 100, where you do the first 25, and then maybe you do the second 50. So basically what I'm saying is you mimic the first part of the race, and then you take the last part of the race, and in between you do some easy swimming, right? And then you do multiple rounds of that. And like I said, you could do rounds where you use no equipment, and then as you get tired and you start to break down, maybe you can put some equipment on and feel better. And then you feel good about yourself. Again, you don't ever want to get to a point in a set where you're breaking yourself down mentally and physically so much that you feel terrible. Put equipment on and feel good, and still hold the same pace that you want to hold. So that's what I would suggest. I would say, let's pretend that you're a 200 swimmer. I would say, all right, we're going to do the first 50 of your 200. We're going to swim 100 easy, and then we're going to do the second. We're going to do the fourth 50, of your, and then we're going to do 6 rounds of that. Okay, that's a great set it's one of my favorite sets of all time.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to ask slipped my mind, but that's it. I think for now, for today. Do you have any questions for us? You're usually in the interviewer position.
Yeah, I do have. Yeah, I've always got questions, don't I? My question to you is this: am I crazy to come in here and tell coaches they should be thinking about getting on the podium? Is this too hard of a concept for Israeli swimming to believe in? Can they believe in this?
Absolutely not crazy. I think we have one swimmer. He's an open water swimmer who believes it with his heart and soul.
Okay.
He's an overachiever.
Yeah.
If you look, he's competing. He was fourth at the Olympics. His name is Matan Woditi.
I actually just saw him.
He is just, he is, I'll say a few words about him. He's competing with the Paltriniers and the Wellbrooks and, people who he doesn't even see their legs in the 1500 in the pool. Yeah. They're a much higher level than him in the pool. Mm-hmm. He'll never make an Olympic final in the 1500, but when he gets to the open water, the guy, he is just on. Every sense is working. He knows where he is. He knows where his competition is. And he came in fourth just because Wellbrook was just gone, and he did fourth in Europeans, which Europeans in open water is just like World. And he was fifth at Europeans several years back. I think he believes he can podium. I don't know how it will work for him in sweet water as opposed to salty water, because everybody's different, with the flotation. I think it can be done. I think Anastasia, once you're in the final there, what do you need? Do you need to go, does she need to break her own record by half a second to go 2.8 mid to be in contention for a medal? I'm not saying to medal, but to contend for a medal. And when she's there in the final 50, if she's on that pace, she's a good racer. Yeah. I think she can do it.
Yep. She's well coached too now with Tom Rushton.
Yeah. I think she can do it. Yeah, she also has more depth with the 400 there, and I think it's a mental thing. And you're not crazy at all. I think when with Anastasia, when it was in Tokyo, and they said let's put her in the 100 back final and let her race, and she didn't make it past the semis in the 200 because it was in the same an hour later.
Yeah.
I said, why does the European champion in 200 IM need to swim the 100 back final? And the mentality was like to say, let's make a final.
Right.
I don't believe in that. I think, if European champion, you should go for a medal. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Well, listen, individually, I think for Paris, where we have a couple of people that are thinking podium, which is great. I think for LA, what my hope is in my visit here and maybe my influence here, my hope is we have a collective thought for LA that we're preparing for the next 4 years to get people on the podium. That's what I hope collectively we start to think about. Instead of just having one-off individuals, I want us all as Israelis to be thinking we're getting on the podium and we're going to help each other get there. If we can do that, I think it happens.
Brett, thanks a lot. It's been a great pleasure. And we'll see you again, hopefully, in the coming years, in the coming days.
Love to come back. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.